We have a name for this podcast. Get your fish on the weigh-in. Y'all voted for it, so I appreciate it. But today, we have one of the most consistent young anglers in the game and making a huge name in the sport. He's the 2023 Toyota Angler of the Year Series. Toyota Series Angler of the Year. He's also the 2023 Toyota Series champion on Table Rock. He has 2 career wins, 17 top 10s, and over $500,000 in earnings. His sponsors include Triumph Roofing, Six Sense Fishing. I could be wrong. Is it Sobro Goods? Is that how you say it?
Yep, Sabro. Yep, yes, sir.
Sobro, Waterland Optics, Yellow Dog Supply, Candlewood Fishing Camp, Eternal Lithium, Mercury Garmin, Phoenix Bats Boats, Mason Sonar Service, and his name is hard to pronounce, but I've got it right a few times. He is a stud angler. Welcome to the show, Chad Mrazek. How are you, man?
Pretty good, hanging in there. Finally have a little bit of time to settle down, but I don't really call it that. I got to keep everything hot, so I'm just moving along, acting like it's still tournament season.
Is that part of the goal? Is to like you've been gone for like 10 or 11 months, haven't you, from your house?
Yep, yeah, haven't been home. Hey, Sonny, put that dog out for me. Yeah, it's been a sorry about that. It's been a
Sorry.
crazy year. But that's just the way I like it, man. I don't really have anywhere to be. I don't have a mortgage or anything to take care of, so just staying in the camper. Don't really go home, fish as much as I can, even in my off time. I try to fish as much as I can.
Is it, so is has that been the strategy? Is it the strategy to get to the BPT, or what is the ultimate goal for you?
Yeah, ultimate goal is definitely get on that Bass Pro Tour. I mean, that's we set out in January, me and my travel partner, and that's pretty much the goal is to get to that next level. But outside of that, I feel like this is my third year doing this as a full-time job, and as long as I'm making a name for myself and making a pretty good living, then I'm fine. I don't need too much to be okay and stay happy. So as long as we're cashing checks, taking care of everything, all sponsor obligations and everything like that, just checking off the list and just keeping it rolling, moving forward. Every tournament's like, what am I going to do to either get better or make sponsors happier and still have a good finish at the same time. So I feel like I have a pretty unique business model as far as that goes, but it's worked out so far.
How do you continue to get better? How do you push yourself to strive to get to that next level and to exactly what you said, deal with sponsorship obligations?
For me, getting better is all about being on the water as much as possible. That business side of the game is just a whole different deal, which I haven't mastered yet by any means, but I'm getting better with it. Starting to build a team, and I like to try to involve everybody. So I've got sponsors from all different walks of the country, and I'm trying to bring everybody together. Like for instance, I've got Candlewood Fishing Camp is a kids summer camp.
Oh,
I've got them tied in with Waterland. The sunglasses, I've got them tied in with Six Sense a little bit, and then outside of that, I have Yellow Dog Tackle Supply. That's basically an online tackle store. I even do stuff to help them out. Like I got them involved with my college, where I went to school at, and shout out to them, by the way, 2-time national champions. So I try to just include everybody, and then it takes a little bit of the workload off of me that way. So I know if I have a really heavy week, tournament wise, or if it's a little bit harder for me to get some content or anything like that, then I have people on the back end that are working for me as well in a way.
yeah, having a good team is really important. How did you get introduced into the outdoors? Was it your dad that took you fishing? Who started you?
Definitely my dad. I don't know. I was never someone to be able to sit inside or sit still at all. So I was growing up. I was always into sports, playing football. Going, we were always doing something. Bloody knees, bloody elbows, always outside. And then I fell in love with fishing. Man, I think fishing and hunting kind of came on about the same time, but um, around like high school, I think like maybe my sophomore, junior year of high school is whenever I started to really realize that I might want to do this. I might want to take this a little bit more serious as a career choice. And you know, I just since then I've been able to take the steps. Uh, I don't think I would recommend the way I did it to anybody, just because I've had such a hodgepodge to get to the point, you know, I am now. You know, there were so many things I had to go through and deal with, like getting out of high school and going straight to work, and then trying to finish college at the same time. It was like, looking back now, I'm like, man, I can't even believe I had enough time to do anything. But now that I'm able to slow down and just fish, it's a lot nicer. Like, I don't have to get off the water and study till 4 a.m. anymore. Like, it's really nice.
One of the things that I mentioned as we started, your work ethic is. I'm not saying this negatively. You're a young man. I'm 53 years old. Not everybody puts in the time on the water. Do you find that the time on the water is more important than maybe even learning the technology, or what's your game plan on that?
Yeah, for sure. I think you know, technology is the one thing, and that's, I'm sure that's a dead horse by now. But outside of that, for sure, it's time on the water. Everywhere is different. So I tell people all the time, if I have like a day or two to kill, if I'm driving like from Florida to Texas or on the East Coast or up north somewhere, any time off I have, I'm going somewhere. I'm going to be on the water, even if I'm just passing through. Like, I remember this season we stopped at Lanier just to kill a couple of days. You know, so I'm sure at some point we're going to be on Lanier. Might not be that time of year, but you know, just small stuff like that. And then even here at home, you know, I'm spending a lot of time in East Texas. I really want to catch a teener before I leave next season, so I'm trying to catch one that's real big, but haven't done it yet. But yeah, time on the water is key for me. I can't say that enough. I've said it so many times this year already. It just keeps me hot. Like, at this point now, I feel like if I took a week off and didn't make a cast for a week, I'd get back in the boat and feel lost. So it's just like, I don't know. It's like I'm home on the water. I love to be on the water. I love to learn. You know, as long as I'm doing this for a living, I can promise you I'll always be a student of that,
Yeah,
student of the game,
you got to keep learning. I think momentum plays a big part in fishing, to be honest. I don't think
for sure.
people realize it. I think the more you're out there learning. So when you stop at some place that's new, is the goal to catch fish, or are you doing your homework, your due diligence for maybe that possible tournament on that water at some point?
Yeah, I mean, a little bit of both, but I can remember times this year and last year and even the year before that where I've put the boat in the water at a place I've never been, and I've just scanned. I mean, just looked around, didn't leave the driver's seat, and that kind of sucks for I guess selling my boat at the end of the year, because so many idle hours sitting behind the wheel. But it all works out. You know, I remember at the James River, the invitational we had this year at the James River, I probably made like 20 casts, and I was just graphing the whole time. And that one ended up working out the way I was fishing. But sometimes it doesn't work like that. But regardless, I mean, as long as you can see how things set up, looking at places, I mean, you start to learn so many small nuances, and you can kind of like tie them into everywhere you go. I think that's huge. Like, something as small as, you know, knowing where to look in like a smaller creek, or where you think current fish might be set up, or tidal fish. Like, I love fishing tidal water, always have. I've actually got a aunt and uncle that live in Ashburn, Virginia. It's pretty close to the Potomac River, and they offered up their house, you know, their basement to me one summer. Um, and that was before I'd ever even thought about fishing tidal water, and I got to really learn the tides, learn how that stuff sets up, and that's so important to me because, I mean, that's just everywhere you go. It's like a whole new world, like it's a whole new habitat. And then whenever you do get somewhere where you're able to fish that you've seen similarities somewhere else, it just makes you that much more ahead of the curve. Like, I can say there's times where I've been in Alabama, and those places have set up like Texas, and you're just like, man, I know exactly what's going on. I know how to catch them. I know how they're setting up. I know what to look for. And it's just putting pieces of the puzzle together, and that all stems from time on the water for sure.
Yeah, time on the water is very important. Did you have to, when your dad brought you up? Obviously, you didn't have forward facing sonar.
Hmm.
How big of a change was it in the way that you fish from back when you were fishing with dad to right now? Do you consider yourself someone that's more forward facing sonar dominant versus traditional fishing?
I can say that I have done, like, in my career so far, I'll tell you that I've done well with it. You know, it has played a major role in some of my wins and good finishes. But man, I was behind. Like I didn't have it. I wasn't reliant on it, and I still to this day I'm not relying on it just because we're not even allowed to use it a whole day. And then next year's a whole different story with that. But no, I grew up old school fishing, man. I flipped. I would say that I fished offshore a lot even before it, which helped me out whenever I got it. Whenever I started, using it a little bit more heavily. Um, I kind of already had an idea of what was going on, like offshore, and how fish set up different times of the year before having the beam. And now that I have it, I mean, things just make a lot more sense. So, but as far as that goes, no, I grew up without it. I love fishing old school. I love cranking. I love, dragging a jig real slow. I love beating the bank too, man. My favorite technique ever has got to be punching. I love flipping and frogging. Um, and it's just like you want to do it's something like that. You want to do it so bad. You want to have a tournament where you get to put a big 8 foot flipping stick in your hand all day. But sometimes, most of the time now with live scope, it just doesn't make sense to do it. It's just really hard to win that way anymore. But if I do ever have the chance where I feel like I have a shot at winning with a big stick in my hand, that's definitely what I would rather do.
Are you're going to have a drastic change this year. You're going to have
hmm
3 hours with it, 5 or 6 without it. Have you started to think about what kind of strategy, when you'll use it, where you'll use it? Have you started to do that kind of research?
Absolutely, yeah. As soon as we've kind of got the word that was going to be changing, yeah, I started. I think I'm just going to practice a lot differently. Is all it is. Outside of that, I mean, 3 hours is a little bit more time than people think. I know for a fact that I've never wrapped a tournament up in 3 hours. Definitely not this year. But
Mhm.
it's just another factor. Like I love whenever you look at all these variables we have in bass fishing. It's like weather, wind, um, water temperature, all these variables, and that just adds another variable to it. Like I know there's people that don't fish well in the heat. There's people that don't fish well in the cold, and I just like to be uh, cool with it all. Just roll with the punches. I think adding another variable like that is going to shake some people up, and that's just something I don't get worried about. So I mean, it is what it is. At the end of the day, we can't have a I don't really have much of a voice to make any changes. So what the heck, man? I'm cool with whatever they decide to do. I'm out here trying to make a living. It doesn't matter. Let's just
You-
roll with it.
You're a
Whatever happens,
well-rounded
happens.
angler.
And what's that?
You're a well-rounded angler.
I'd like to think so. Yeah, I love it all. Like it, I just like catching bass. I don't mind doing anything. With it, without it, whatever. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now, hopefully you make the BP team next season. You go from 5 fish to every fish.
hmm
How does that change how you're good, what you would end up doing?
That's definitely something I haven't spent a ton of time thinking about, but I will say as far as right now, how I'm structured, how I'm wired, I've always been a 5 fish guy, like always, and I don't catch a ton of fish in tournaments. I've never been that guy that's just went out and busted them. It is good to look for population. That's probably one of the first things I start with in practice is finding a good population of fish. But outside of that, I don't think I've never really been a guy that catches a ton of them. But I never practiced for it either. So I think the only time I fished that format was at Red Crest, and I don't know. It's a little weird. It's just another. I mean, like I say, I think I'm just gonna practice differently for stuff like that, and maybe key in on some different things that I wouldn't key in on. Pay a lot more attention to what's going on with bait and wind and stuff like that because I know chasing numbers like that's a completely different game. So,
Yeah.
uh, but for the most part, man, I just want to worry about making it there, and then when that time comes, we'll figure out how to stay relevant in that format.
Have you set goals for yourself for 2026? Not only make the BPT, but other goals do you have in mind?
AOI is always a big one. I think AOI title is really important. Shoot, I came close this year in a couple of Toyota divisions, but I wasn't able to steal any. I think the last one I got was man, a Toyota probably 2 years ago. I won one of the Toyota divisions. I don't really remember which one it was anymore, but yeah, Angler of the Year for the Pro Circuit, big deal. That's definitely number one. Not only for the payday, but that's just a dominant title. Being an Angler of the Year is really hard, especially with the group we got. This year we've had a great group. Last year was an amazing group. You got to catch them. Like you can't afford to have you break it down and really look at it, you can almost not afford to have a bad day, like to
You
to
can't.
to come away with a title like that. So Angler of the Year for sure. Bass Pro Tour. I really want to get that Bass Pro Tour berth. I was close this year. Um, Other than that, no, just keep the ball rolling. Toyota Series events have really been like a money maker for me. So, outside of once you start building a good name for yourself and getting enough sponsored dollars to really make things make sense from a business format, then you can really settle down and say, man, like let's look at where I've made the most money. Let's look at what makes sense for me to do. And some things I know in a ton of people's eyes, the way that I operate and the way that I travel doesn't make sense for a lot of people. It would definitely be hard to do with a family and kids or anything like that, a house even. But it's made sense and I don't know. I'm just gonna keep it rolling until I will say I don't really want to travel a super heavy schedule. Um, I don't see myself doing it for 10 more years, but I'm definitely cool with fishing a heavy schedule like this for at least 3 to 4 more years.
So you're fishing the pro circuit. You're going to try to fish the Toyota Series 2 and are you going to do any BFLs?
Yeah, dude, they just kind of if the schedule's open and I see a tournament, I'm there. Like I just fished a BFL super tournament on the Ohio River a couple weeks ago, and that was like one of the most miserable places I've ever fished in my life. But I learned so much and ended up catching like the biggest fish of that event of that tournament and made some money there. So anytime I see an open, a hole in the schedule, I try to fill it. Yeah, but I'm gonna fish every Toyota Series event, all the divisions, and then yeah, the Pro Circuit.
You have a unbelievably busy
Yeah,
schedule.
for sure. Yeah, it's actually my I keep it as my screensaver because there's so many events that I get questions all the time. What are you doing this day? What are you doing this day? And I'm like, all right, let me just turn on my phone real quick. Here's my schedule. And it's like top to bottom. There's just event after event after event. But I like it that way, man. Sometimes I didn't get to practice for a few of them this year, and they ended up working out. And we fished Kentucky Lake this year, and we had like a tornado come through there. So me and my travel partner ended up going to Nashville and hanging out for a little bit, and we came back, no practice, said let's just fish a Toyota on Kentucky Lake, and I ended up finishing third. So, just stuff like that. And that event in particular was kind of crazy because it wasn't the typical Kentucky Lake that you're used to seeing. It was really high and muddy and cold, and it wasn't like a typical shaking a minnow on a stump deal. I actually got to get in the dirt and throw a chatterbait and a spinnerbait and a crankbait, and I caught them that way. That was really refreshing to do, especially like in the middle of the season when, after the pre-spawn period, January, February, March, you get a tournament like that shoved into the schedule, and it's like, man, I'm so glad I'm not looking at this screen. It's so refreshing. But just things like that, you never know. You can't win a tournament if you're not fishing it. That's what I always say. So, I try to
I
fish
agree.
as many tournaments as I can. I think that's my biggest, outside of just being on the water in general, more particularly being in a tournament format, like being in a tournament situation is huge. You learn so much. You learn stuff about yourself, stuff about what's going on with these lakes, and it keeps your mind tough. The brain needs a workout too. It's just like you bodybuilders work out all the parts of their body, whatever. You keep your brain strong too. So I think tournaments help out with that a lot.
So you have your partner, your buddy that also fishes
Mm,
nonstop with you.
Yep.
Are you towing the boat and the camper together?
So the camper sits on top of the truck. It's like a
Oh,
cab
okay.
over. So yeah, we both have the exact same setup. We've got travel light campers, basically like a Lance camper, and then the boats.
Yeah.
So sometimes we'll leave them on the truck. Sometimes we'll drop them at campgrounds. We've slept there. I mean, just about everywhere: parking lots, WalMarts, dollar store, like whatever. Slept at the boat ramp. We're just I don't know. They say nomad. It's just a nomadic lifestyle.
It's awesome. It's great that you can do it too, and you should do it when you can and have the energy and everything else. And obviously, the results are proven for themselves. You're killing it. I mean,
Thank you.
physically killing it.
It's been good. I've definitely had a good. The wind eluded me. The wind eluded me a couple times this year, and I try not to beat myself up about it too bad. But there was a couple times this year where I really had it buttoned up, and I just had some misfortune. But that's the way it goes. I think if I keep putting myself close, eventually I'm going to get me a win again.
Yeah, I know you will. You competed in the Ultimate Angler Championship, didn't you?
Yep. Yes,
I
sir.
remember saying, what was your overall thoughts of that tournament?
Oh, it was great. I mean, being on Gunnersville, that's shoot. There's probably no better place to have a no scope better than Gunnersville. I mean, the lake fish
Mhm.
is good. Every time I'm there, it's fishing good. I mean, 20 pounds is like nothing out there apparently, but it was good. Yeah, I was in the top 10 after the first 2 days, and then I ran out of fish. But as far as the format went and everything, man, that was so awesome. Like it was cool to see everybody together, and I ended up having a decent finish, nothing crazy. I cashed a check, but it was so cool that they're able to give that much money away, and it just goes to show, with Tucker winning and stuff like that. I think whether it's live scope or not, I think for the most part, the people that win, you're still going to see winning, and I hope that carries over. You know, I hope that true, but from what I've seen so far, these guys all catch them. It doesn't matter if we have the scope
Mhm.
or not.
I agree with you. I think there's people like you and your buddy and even Tucker and Trey. You guys are putting in. I don't mean to be mean to anybody. You guys are putting in 100 times more work than a lot of other anglers that are bigger names that are just out there fishing and are going on past experiences
Hmm.
or past tournaments. And at some point in time, they need to realize that you have to learn as much. You might not like technology, you might dislike it, whatever it is,
Hmm.
but you have to keep up with what's going on because there's good technology and there's bad technology,
Right.
and that's part of the thing.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, everybody's putting in the work the way I see it. Me and my travel partner, we always tell each other, don't get outworked. That's like the number one thing. Shoot, I'm surprised I haven't written it somewhere like on my console or something. Don't get outworked. So yeah, any second we get, and then we have a social life as well, but that there's a time and place for that too. But as long as we're up for work, that's all that matters. So putting in as much work as we possibly can, that's pretty much what we pride ourselves on. Me personally, especially.
Yeah, you're proving that. Do you and your buddy do you guys try to motivate each other? Do you try to,
Oh yeah.
push each other's buttons, do a
Hmm.
little chirping,
For sure. Yeah,
put some
we're
skin in
we
the game?
we talk crap about each other to each other for sure, but it keeps us hot. It's just the way that worked out with him and I is Brody Campbell, by the way, is his name. The
Yeah.
way it worked with Brody and I is we just met at a boat ramp. We both had campers, and 2 years later, here we are. It's like we have similar personalities. We like to chirp. We talk a lot of smack, but that's I'm glad it worked that way because the what we do isn't for the weak. It's not for the soft. So everybody says my whole family's actually from the north. They're all from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I'm like the only one in my family that's actually from Texas. So like explaining to them what I did, what my job is like a little confusing. Like they're like, "You do what for a living?" But yeah, no, I mean it's all worked out. I've got a huge support group, man. My family supports me a ton. And I think most of my work ethic definitely comes from my mom and my dad. They taught me from a really, really, really young age that nothing's going to be given to you. If you want something, you got to go work for it, and that's kind of a small look at the. I mean, that's a short way to put how my whole career has been. I got out of high school, and I was pretty much for 2 years straight just to get enough money to make a run at anything. I was a mover. I was in a moving truck. I had a 26-foot moving truck, and I was moving houses in Houston Monday through Friday, and then I was taking guide trips Saturday, Sunday. So I did that for like almost 3 years. Had a ton of other side jobs in between then, and then like I said, I was in online college as well. So the earlier years, man, I'm so glad that all that stuff's over. But all in the same breath, I'm glad I had to go through that. I'm glad I didn't just not to like, I know nobody can be blamed for the situation that they're in. Like, I never take anything from anybody, but I what I'm trying to say is I'm very glad my mom and dad didn't just give me a credit card and say, "Here you go chase this dream," because I don't think there's any way that I would have had the mindset I do now if I didn't have to go get it like that, like I did.
It builds character is what it does. And when you build that character, it shows the morals and everything else that come with being a young man. And I say that nicely. That isn't a negative.
Yeah.
So this is going to be, I'm going to chirp at you just for a little bit here.
Okay.
How in the hell do you live in Texas and not catch a 10-pounder yet?
Dude, well, I'm trying to catch a teener, like a 13.
Oh,
Yeah.
13. Oh, you've got some serious
Yeah,
goals.
I've got a few double digits under the belts. I don't know.
Okay.
I'm on the road so much. Well, that's not even an excuse because we go to so many good lakes, but I'd say I've probably caught like 20, around 20 over 10, but never a teener. I've never caught a 13 plus. So that's what they call a share lunker here. So
Yeah.
I'll tell you this, I would be on the lookout the next few days. I've seen some real ones. I'm fishing. I've got a couple sneak holes up here that I like to fish. In the off season, I stay with a good buddy of mine, Wyatt Frankens. He is a East Tech. He's really good in East Texas, and we're spending some time in the Deerwood, spending some time on the water. But the last few days, I've seen some. So I'm just waiting
Really?
for. The problem is we don't have any cold water or cold weather in the foreseeable future. So they're still that in a little bit of a funky mood, the bass and the deer. But as far as getting one of those big giant bass to bite, I think we're gonna need a little cold snap first.
Yeah, for us, because I'm in Florida, we get a cold snap and it starts the process of spawn
Mhm.
slowly but surely.
Yeah.
Are you seeing fish? Are you seeing the teeners that are in that pre-spawn phase already at this time of year?
No, they just kind of set up like there's always a like how you were saying things just get started. Like one of my favorite times of the year, other than like fall tournament season, is like seeing them start to progress into the pre-spawn because that's whenever it goes down in Texas and a lot of other places as well. But all the monumental bags you hear um, in Texas for the most part, in my opinion, are in that pre-spawn period. And finding where they winter too is like a really big deal to me. So at home on Conroe, like that, the last 3 years, the only time I've been able to fish at home is in the winter. So um, I love to learn about their
You need to
winter
tell that
patterns.
sponsor of yours, Ben Milliken, to take you to some of his honey
Yeah,
holes.
really, really. I need to get with Ben, man. I think he has a little he has something figured out on catching those big giant ones. But like I said, man, if I wish I could spend more time here. Like sometimes I'm on the road and I'm like, golly, I wish I was home. Like when we're at a Smith or something like that, where a 4 pounder is a giant. Um, I'm just like, man, I wish we could be at home. But like I said, it's still like my favorite time. There's such a good window to catch a giant this time of year. They're feeding up. They eat big baits. They float in places they aren't floating all year, and it's cool to see that progress. Like I said, into the pre-spawn where you'll catch a fish on a tree in the middle of the lake in 40 foot, on a piece of standing timber or something. And then you start to look at it and analyze it and break it down. You're like, well, there is kind of like a drain right here. And then you pull up to the drain, start looking around, and you see that there's a stump. And you're like, you can almost tell that fish that you caught out in 50 foot of water is going to progress her way up into this pre-spawn period. And then you start getting into the spawn where the giants are a lot more visible. There's certain times of the year where they get in places that you just see them. They just show themselves a lot more. So unfortunately,
Yeah.
that's not like the winter for me, but I guess you could say like the really, really, really big ones in like February, March, especially here in the South, will just show themselves a lot more. They just get in obvious places.
You're out there running around with your head cut off.
Yeah.
You got to say, okay, I'm going to take 2 weeks, January or whatever,
Hmm.
whenever, and say, you want to know what this is? You have to enjoy. You have to enjoy fishing.
Yeah,
Obviously, you enjoy
for
fishing.
sure.
You probably enjoy it more than 90% of us, and are pushing yourself. But sometimes you just have to take the time for yourself to reach those goals.
Yeah.
As someone who's a lot older,
Yeah, for
and
sure.
you miss that opportunity. So I have a couple more questions, and I'll let you go. But I really appreciate the time.
Yeah.
I want to know about this giant spotted bass you caught March
Oh
16th
yeah.
on Hartwell. What you were doing, what the bait was you're using, and how it happened. Because I remember seeing that and thinking that's physically impossible.
Yeah, that was a special one, man. That whole tournament really that was one that I'm still kicking myself about because I put myself in a really good spot. The second day obviously was a struggle for me. But it was just one of those ones. It could have been good. It could have been special. It could have been a win, but it is what it is. It wasn't my time. Um, that Hartwell has really always been a special place to me since probably 2021. So when I was a sophomore in college, I had just finished my sophomore year, and I was going to be done with college. I was going to be done with school. I actually had a school in South Carolina reach out to me and asked me to come bass fish for them. And I had a pretty decent guide business going on at home, and I was working as a mover. Things were good at home. I was maintaining. And I was like, you know what? I'm not going to get this opportunity again. I may as well just go. So I packed up my truck, hooked my boat up, and I just drove to South Carolina, and I stayed there for about 3 years, and finished school out. But in the middle of all that, when I should have been in class, I was on Hartwell. Like I actually ended up taking all online classes. Even though I lived on campus, I still ended up taking online classes, and I spent a ton of time on Lake Hartwell just because I knew. I mean, it's Hartwell. I'm going to be there at some point. We even had a lake really close there, probably 5 miles from campus, Lake Greenwood, and I didn't spend near as much time there as I did on Hartwell. So Hartwell's always been special. And then couple years, I guess it was last year, I won a pretty big tournament on Hartwell. So that one was special. And then, it all fruitioned, and here I am holding the Lake Hartwell record spotted bass now. But it was just a typical, deal of the way I like to fish on Hartwell. I've spent tons of time graphing that place as well. Um, and there's just little, clay spots and little hard spots, little differences on the bank there. And thing about Hartwell is you can actually look at the bank and like see how it sets up underwater. So like almost every bank is different out there. And like what I like to look for is just like little, little rock spots, just basically hard spots. And I was fishing that tournament. It was the final day of the invitational out there. And I'd lost a couple of big ones. I'd caught, I had a decent bag at the time. And I was running back in. I had like 10 more minutes to fish, and I was like, man, this spot just popped up in my head that I had actually found in college years ago. Like I found and have caught many big ones off this spot whenever I was in college. And it just popped up in the back of my mind. I was like, dude, this place sets up exactly how I've been fishing the entire week. I hadn't hit it all week. I hadn't even practiced at that spot. And I pulled up and dropped the trolling motor, and I saw three of them just kind of cruising on bottom like they do. Honestly, how these flatter fish, like the fish that get on the flats in Texas, it's exactly the same thing. The big ones will just cruise along the bottom, and you got to really be paying attention. And there was three of them, so I casted at one of them. I was throwing it was a bambusa worm by 6 cents. I was throwing it on a drop shot. One of my favorite baits to throw of all time for sure. Um, I threw it down there and I stopped him right away, and I just shook it like twice, and that big giant one got it, and I was like, dude, this has got to be a striper. What's going on here? And I got her next to the boat, and I was like, what the heck is that thing? And thankfully she just those spots are so fat. She just got up top. After I fought her forever, she just kind of came up next to the boat and laid on her side, and I netted her. And I set her in the bottom of the boat, and I was like, what the heck is that, dude? It's crazy. The biggest spot I've ever seen. But
Biggest spot I've ever seen.
the thing that made me the most upset is I ran out of time, and I think I could have got the other two to bite. Who knows how big they were, but I know for a fact they were the same size as her. I mean, if not, maybe a little bigger. Maybe within ounces. I'm sure they were. Those other two were giants as well. So I wish I had enough time. I literally put that fish in the boat. I pulled one out, and I had to go to weigh in. So it was cool how that worked out because that final day of that event was such a struggle for me with losing them, breaking them off. Spotted bass, their teeth are so sharp. So, and I throw a really, really, really light line on Hartwell. I throw 6 most of the time. Um, and yeah, so you break some fish off and stuff like that, but that's kind of a risk you have to take with throwing really light line like that. Retying is a big deal, but yeah, I mean, I put it in the live well. I don't even know how big it was. I was like, dude, this thing is huge. And I get back to weigh in, and I was talking to actually the Robinsons. Shout out to Mitchell, he actually won that tournament. But Marty Robinson and I were talking, and he's like, "I heard you got a big one," and I was like, "Yeah, I don't know like how big it is, but it looks huge." So I pulled it out of the live well, and he's like, "Dude, I think you got the lake record." I was like, "No way, whatever." And we got up stage with Chris Jones, and he like announced, he was like, "Does anybody know what the Lake Hartwell record is?" And someone said it was like 5'7" or something like that, or a heavy 5. And I even did some research after the tournament. I haven't found one heavier than that, but yeah, I ended up weighing it on stage. It was really cool because there was like I had people from my school there, old kids from college, some old buddies, the people I stay with whenever I'm there. It was probably one of our better events as far as the audience, the turnout, and I got to hold that big giant new lake record up in front of everybody. It was awesome. Unfortunately, I didn't get to win it, but I know Mitchell won that tournament. He definitely deserved it. He's from there. He spent a ton of time there. But yeah, that was really cool. I'll probably remember that for forever.
Yeah, that was a stud. Do you have a are you do you hang out with a lot of the guys that are on the tour, like Mitchell and the
Um,
Robinsons and other guys, or do you try to keep to yourself when you're out on the road?
I keep to myself. We keep a pretty tight circle. Me and Brody. We hang out with Banks a lot, a good bit. I don't know. It's just like finding somebody else that has the same lifestyle as you is kind of tough. Um, but yeah, we keep a small circle. I talk to a lot of them on the phone for sure. It's definitely nothing against them, but everybody's there to work. So, um, I might get off the water and go grab a beer with somebody or something. But for the most part, whenever it's like when it's tournament week, that's the only thing that's on the mind. So, uh, pretty much wake up, go fish, come back, shower, go to bed, and that's it. We'll take it a little bit easier whenever we're off, whenever we have a day off or whatever. But yeah, like I said, tournament time we lock in hard, and that's we'll come back to the campers and bounce a few ideas off each other, kind of talk about what's going on. But for the most part, I mean, my travel partner and I talk on the water pretty much every practice. If not, like I said, we'll just go back and talk about it for a little bit, and then get ready to do it all again.
Yeah. Is there one place you're looking forward to next year for the pro circuit that just stands out for
Yeah,
you?
I really, really, really am looking forward to Santee Cooper. I've spent a ton of time there as well. Have a decent track record there. I fished a Toyota there last year, and I was in second going into the final day, and then the third day I was just kind of blown off one of my spots. But I'm really looking forward to that. I think I figured something out there. It's a different time of the year than I'm used to fishing it, but I think also in the same breath that it's going to be a pre-spawn event. I see some giants being caught, and I know I can fish how I fish at home there. So I'm really comfortable on Santee Cooper. That's probably the one that I have marked off as I think this is going to be a good one.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to saying your name a lot next year. I love you and Brody's work ethic. I think it's amazing. I think when you can do it, do it.
Yes, sir.
And you've got your head on right, man. And I hope that you continue to build your team. I wish you the most success. And thank you for doing the things like going to Candlewood Fish Camp and mentoring or talking to the kids about the outdoors. We need more of that.
Absolutely, man. I love it. Yeah, they've been a huge help for me as well. So it actually saves me a bunch of time and money being able to stay up there up north. So we're actually going to Cayuga next year too. So if anybody's listening, wants to go fishing with me for a week, then we'll be on Cayuga with the kids camp. You'll be fed and everything, taken care of. We played flag football last year, and I ended up hurting my shoulder the day before the last invitational on the St. Lawrence. So I've actually been fishing left-handed the rest of the season because of that. So I had to switch reel handles, and that's been a pain. But no, yeah,
You're driving on the other side of the road, you mean?
What's that?
You're driving on the other side of the
It
road.
was weird at first because the first tournament I fished opposite handed was that Potomac, and I was punching grass mats, and I was like, I felt like an idiot, but I was in the lead going into the final day, so I must have been doing something right. But like I was saying, we'll be up there up north for tournaments, and I don't want to drive all the way back to Texas, so I'll just end up, going and working a few weeks with the camp. I love teaching the kids. I like seeing the youth in the sport, and it's such a different market up there too. Up north, there's people from all different backgrounds, and then I think one kid we had flying from like England or something, and he was just ate up with it. It was the coolest thing ever, man. Like he was just all about it. He was all about learning, and I think that's so cool. I don't know how much I can teach them, but I definitely like to teach them as much as I do know. So I hope some of them might be coming for my job in a couple of years. So I think that's really cool.
That would be really cool. Well, I wish you the best of luck in 2026. Continue pushing. Thank you for the time. Thank you for motivating kids. Thank you for having your head on right. And dude, I'm not joking when I say I'm a massive fan.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. It's been a good season.
And let's keep in touch.
Yeah.
And if you need a place to stay, if you're in Florida.
Absolutely. Hey, I'll be there in just a couple of weeks. I'm going to hit the road probably December 1st.
If you need a place, there's a room here.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. I appreciate that.
Everyone go check out all of his social media stuff. Chad Mrazek. You're going to hear his name, I promise you. So go check it out. And thanks again, Chad.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
I'm going to hit stop here.
Okay.